Everybody wants to be in the low frequency.
Check 1, 2.
Hej och välkomna! Radiohead tävlar med U2 och R.E.M. om platsen som världens alternativaste stadionrockband och jag tror faktiskt att de vinner. Många alternativa rockband de ger ut sina skivor på små oberoende etiketter. De spelar gratis på Hultsfredsfestivalens demoscen, skickar sina pressreleaser till Peter Demo och till en kille i Alingsås med egen kopiator. Fast sån tur har förstås inte Radiohead. De har under årens lopp tvingats se sina låtar som Creep, Karma Police och Paranoid Android förvandlas till monsterhits. De har sålt dubbelplatina i drygt 50 länder och när den engelska musiktidningen Qs läsare skulle rösta fram tidernas bästa rockplatta så hamnade deras OK Computer på första plats. Ja, vad de än gör så fortsätter fansen att älska dem. Och inte ens när den alternativa plattan Kid A inte blev fullt så alternativ som de tänkt sig utan istället bandets första albumetta i USA, ja då kan man fråga sig hur länge kommer de att orka? Cecilia från Strokirch och Malik Bendjelloul, de har träffat delar av Radiohead i höstens tredje Pop i fokus. Varsågoda.
What do you think is the biggest misinterpretation about Radiohead?
Probably that they're a bunch of serious miserabilists, and that's and the fact Tom's some mad screwed up person. He's not at all. He's a really, really sound, good guy.
Tom, Johnny, Phil and Colin. Friends from school. Or no, we weren't friends initially. I think Tom and Colin were. We formed the band in 1985 at school.
På Abington School tog Tom och Colin kontakt med Ed för att han liknade idolen Morrissey från The Smiths. Efter ett trummaskinshaveri inkallades Phil. Collins lillebror Johnny fick sitta med i replokalen till en början och efter något år fick även han plats i bandet.
It was about the time when we were starting up Radiohead and we were at school. And to actually have bands like the Smiths as kind of like, almost like role models of how to do a band and, almost like providing this kind of blueprint for it.
Bands like the Smiths have been a huge influence in the mid-80s, but I went to university in Manchester and there were only two reasons really to go to. For me at the time, the reason I chose it was because of the Smiths and New Order. Everyone was waiting for this new Smiths album. Open it up, it was because it was gatefold and in the middle you had Salford Boys Club and the four of them standing there and put on the record. And the opening bars of the title track, The Queen is Dead, and that drumming. Wow, wow, wow.
Efter Abington School började Tom, Colin, Ed och Phil på olika universitet för att skaffa sig utbildningar innan de vågade satsa allt på musiken. Bandet tog sig namnet On a Friday för att man repeterade på fredagar. Först 1991, då bandet funnits i 6 år, gjorde On a Friday sin första spelning på Jericho Tavern i Oxford. En scen som även huserat andra Oxford-band som Ride och Supergrass.
A lot of people do remember when this was Jericho Tavern. Unfortunately, kind of people are now 30, but a lot of people do remember that when live music was the big thing, and Radiohead played on that stage.
When did you first hear Radiohead?
91. at a little club. I think it was their third gig. Totally blown away by them. And that made a complete fool of myself in front of them by saying they were absolutely brilliant and had to work with them. Tom was just an amazing singer and an amazing frontman, and they had ridiculous amounts of power and energy. They were very, I mean, it was very punky and not particularly, you know, it needed a lot of forming, but there was just something in there which just seemed like an amazing force.
The name On a Friday.
Yes. It was a shit name.
Do they agree it was a shit name?
Yeah. I mean, you've got to be stupid if you think it's a great name. It's bollocks, it's rubbish.
Where did you get the name Radiohead from?
Well, it came from a Talking Heads song. It's off True Stories. It's a song called Radiohead. In England, you had to be the working class hero. In America, you had these bands like the Talking Heads and Pixies who weren't blue collar. They were obviously formed at art school and they were nerdy students, which is what we were. Well, the only reason we were signed, I think, was because Smells Like Teen Spirit had been a hit, had broken in '92. And it was one of those amazing pieces of timing. I mean, we've been playing, I mean, when you listen to our first record, Pablo Honey, that kind of quiet verse, loud chorus, guitars crashing, we've been playing that stuff for about a year and a half, really influenced by the Pixies, and I think Nirvana were influenced by the Pixies as well in that respect.
Here we are, without running out of confusion, and it don't seem no confusion anywhere. And if the world does turn, and if London burns, I'll be standing on the beach with my guitar.
We loved that sound of 3 guitars, you know. Nirvana had 1, we had 3.
It's a decent debut album with a couple of very strong tracks on there. I mean, for me, actually, it doesn't really represent how we sounded at the time. And also, you know, I mean, we were young men when we made Pablo Honey. So it's, you know, it's what was relevant to us musically at that point probably isn't so much now.
When you were before, couldn't look you in the eye.
That song, I mean, the lyric, the vocal is an amazing vocal, and the guitar hook, which is that. And yeah, it's great. That's perfect pop. It's been our only proper hit, really. It's funny, it's like our only genuine radio sort of smash. At the end of '92, there was a radio station in San Francisco and called Live 105. And there was a DJ there called, I remember him, thank him, Steve Masters, and he got Creep on import. It wasn't released in America. We didn't have a deal in America. And he started playing it. It was the most requested track, and this track grew just by word of mouth throughout America. It's fucking saved our asses big time, because we got to a stage in the UK where we were on a level. The album had been released, Pablo Honey had been released, and we weren't going. It wasn't happening. We suddenly had a deal over there, and then that summer '93, you know, there were 3 kind of big singles of that summer, I think. I mean, there was that Runaway Train by Soul Asylum and Spin Doctors, 2 Princes, and there was Creep. I mean, the problem with Pablo Honey was that I guess people were kind of, there were 2 really good tracks in there, Creep and possibly Lurgy. Maybe Blowout was good, but the rest was, it hadn't been done right and it wasn't good enough. So we always knew, and people always like, you know, you'd always get this thing about, oh, well, Creep's a good song, yeah, we'll grant you that, but you're one-hit wonder. So it's like, right, when we come back, we better have 12 fucking songs on this album that are gonna just like, each one of them can be a single. And that's what we tried to do.
Tom fick oförtjänt rykte om sig att vara deprimerad eftersom media satte likhetstecken mellan honom och låten Creep. Brittisk musikpress förutsatte att Tom York skulle bli nästa Kurt Cobain. Men även om Radiohead inte var miserabla privat har de haft svårt på ett område, i studion.
I mean, rehearsals went really well, and we thought we were going to go in and actually record it in a very short space of time. But I think we kind of got a bit of stage fright when we went in and started putting things down on tape. We did about a month and a half's worth of touring in the middle of recording the Bends, and we were able to go out, and it's almost as if we reclaimed the songs and breathed the life back into them. One justification we have for it being hard in the studios is the fact if it's not hard, then we're probably not going to produce good music. Probably means that you're not questioning what you've done before. You're just being a bit lax about what's going down on tape.
You kill yourself for recognition, kill yourself to never ever stop. You broke another mirror, you're turning into something you are not. Don't leave me high, don't leave me dry.
What do you think of the album The Bends today?
I really like it, actually. I hadn't listened to it for absolutely ages until last year. Then listening back to it, after a couple of years, I thought, oh, I feel quite happy with this. It was a lot better than I remembered it sounding.
On the Bends, we'd taken the whole sort of 3.5-4 minute song to what we felt were its extremes and what we felt were manageable. We needed to make songs like Paranoid Android and Let Down, songs that kind of, wanted to do something different with it. We had these songs, and we'd rehearse them. We rehearsed them really thoroughly. We shut ourselves away for a couple of months and rehearsed them, and then went out on the road with them, and then did some rehearsal and recording more, then went out on the road and then came back. OK Computer was all about performance, bar Paranoid Android, which had to be sort of constructed in the studio, but it was all about performance and getting the right performance. I mean, we must have done about 60-odd versions of No Surprises. And we went back to the first one, the very first one that we did.
OK Computer came along, and it had such an amazing reception as an album. It's got a very dark mood to it, and it, listening to it, I mean, it really, more than any of the other records actually, it really takes me back to the places where we recorded it. And we recorded it in this Elizabethan manor house in Gloucestershire in England. And for me, it's just taken on the atmosphere of that house, really.
I mean, I remember when Q made it their #1 album, they did this chart of #1 records, #1 albums in it must have been the middle of '98. So OK Computer had been out for a year, and I remember I was going through it. I was going, you know, the countdown. It's like, oh, Pablo Honey said, Jesus, yeah, God, don't think much of that record. Going through, and then there's the bends at 5, and it's like, man, you know, the bends at 5, that's incredible. And thought, well, that's weird. You know, OK Computer, it must be too recent for people to have put it down, and there's Beatles, REM, Beatles, turnovers, what's going to be #1? And there it was, and it was like, you know, I remember I was on the airport bus coming back from Heathrow back to Oxford, and it was, I couldn't believe it.
It's always a bit of a mad thing when people say this is the best record in the world. I mean, how do you say that? It doesn't make any sense. When people start saying that, the media starts saying that, then everyone starts believing that. And it's just a great record, that's all.
Okay, we were pleased with the album. It maybe wasn't that good, really. But, you know, in terms of actually trying to top people's expectations of that, it's just like, well, you know, where do you go from there, really?
Istället för att stressa fram nytt material efter succéskivan OK Computer tog Radiohead ett viloår från musiken och tillbringade mer tid med sina familjer.
We knew that we wanted to do phase 2, but what phase 2 meant was we weren't sure. You know, you're feeling around because suddenly you're sort of attempting to start again, really. And but start again with a lot of money.
Radiohead var trötta på den traditionella marknadsföringskarusellen och därför släpptes vare sig musikvideor eller singlar. Istället tillverkar man korta animationer som presenterades på bandets hemsida.
When we were recording Kid A and Amnesiac, we had the documentary about the rise and rise of hip hop. They had Public Enemy on there talking about how they worked in the studio, and they go in there and just create this like chaos for about 25 minutes, and out of that chaos they would find, say, 30 seconds of a good loop.
Burn, Hollywood, burn, I smell a riot going on. First they're guilty, now they're gone. Yeah, I'll check out a movie, but it'll take a black one to move me.
It's great when something comes along and actually sweeps aside all your old preconceptions about what music should be.
About gangs putting each other's head out, so I'd rather kick some slang out. All right, fellas, let's go hang out.
But we hadn't gone in with the intention of recording 2 albums at the same time. Why we ended up with so many tracks is that we wouldn't actually commit ourselves to finishing anything.
The whole thing about success, the more of it that you have, the less people are willing to tell you, A, you're shit, and B, you can't do that, and C, you have to finish, you know, now.
And to avoid finishing anything, we'd start a new track. And we got to about a year into the whole session, and we just had, 26, 27 unfinished songs. I mean, with Kid A and Amnesiac, it's been brilliant playing them live because they've taken on a completely different life in themselves now. They've as records, they're very much studio constructs, but then, it suddenly comes back into the whole thing of 5 of us playing together in one space at the same moment, and it does take on. It's like having two versions of the same song. Kid A was very much a deck clearing process for us. I think it was just in the recording and the way that we promoted it. It was just like going back to square one for us and trying to build it up from a different basis. It didn't feel as though there were singles on Kid A, really. But with Amnesiac, it feels that there are singles on that record.
Jumped in the river, what did I see? Black-eyed angels swam with me.
look at our albums today, that's a mini album. Very different from there to there to there to there, you know.
I mean, there is a lot of development in between Pablo Honey and Amnesiac. I don't think you'd have expected Amnesiac if you'd heard Pablo Honey.
So if it's nearer to the edge of the desk, then it's the most commercial. Now, someone last night was arguing it was like this. That was kind of, and then that's like Kid A's right back there. So this is the least commercial, that's the most commercial. And they said that Pablo Honey was the most commercial. Then the next one was OK Computer. Then Iron Lung, and the Benz is there. You see, I would do my shift. I wouldn't necessarily have that back there so far. I'd have like that, move that one up to there, Benz there. You know, maybe because I don't like that one that much, I'd pull that back a bit. Although it had like a hit single. That one, Iron Lung, I don't know that, I don't really count that because that was all part of that. And that one's up there, and then, you know, that would be my formation, kind of, those two nearer there. Maybe pull that one, maybe that should go, I don't know. Yeah.
Is this a quality formation?
Is that what?
Is it a quality formation?
No, oh, quality. Oh, it's all like this, isn't it?
Tycker du om Radiohead så titta lite närmare på bandet Muse som låter lite som Radiohead men ändå har ett eget sound. I nästa veckas Pop i fokus är Camp, Nina Perssons soloprojekt från de första konserterna i England i somras. Och innan dess blir det mer musik i Sveriges Television på torsdag i den här kanalen. Då kommer Musikbyrån klockan 22:40, en konsert med PJ Harvey från sommarens Arvika-festival. Skriv gärna till oss och kom ihåg, The Wall ligger alltid före Animals. God kväll!
Say ba.